Welcome to Live and Thrive. We've established on this channel that purpose gives meaning to life. So you have a purpose. That is your reason, your why for living. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, set a vision. After which you now set goals, which is how you actually actualize that vision. But now I need you to show me a plan. And I have with me on Live and Thrive today, Tony, to talk about planning. So, Tony, what is the place of planning in actualizing purpose?
Okay. Hello, folks. It's always good to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about having a vision, which you must set goals in order to achieve it. But one thing about a goal is it's like a destination where you have to get to. You still have to travel to that point. So that is the role of planning. You have to plan the activities. So I would talk about a plan as simply a description of the activities you need to undertake in order to achieve a given goal, whatever your goal is. An example is a building plan. A building plan shows how all the elements of the building will be put together before you even build it. So you have visualized how you are going to build the house. The same thing with a business plan. A business plan highlights all the things you are going to do in order to run that business well. So, with that in mind, the idea behind planning is making decisions in advance, like you are thinking of the future, what is going to be done, how it's going to be done, and when it is going to be done. Those three elements are very important when you're planning. What is to be done, how it will be done, and when it will be done. And certainly, it depends highly on the goal. So without a goal, what to be done cannot be known. So when you are planning, what you do is to first look at all the alternative ways you can do what it is you want to do. Then make a decision after you have looked at all of them and set timelines. So don't forget, you must consider alternatives, make a decision, and set time by which all these activities will be done. So that is, in essence, is what I'll call planning.
Planning. So everything, like you've said, is in everything.
Yeah.
So what makes a good plan then?
Obviously, I'm sure you've seen people plan and fail. I often even think of this saying that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. But you can also fail if you don't plan properly. So I would like to update that quote to say, if you fail to plan properly, you are planning to fail. So how do we even have a good plan? The first thing is to know what you need in order to make your plan good. First and most important thing is the goal. You must have an understanding of the goal and even a deeper understanding by knowing the vision behind that goal, because this will help you make better decisions. The next thing you need is to know how to research your alternatives. For example, if you are traveling, you might need to know all the different methods by which you can travel, how much it costs, how much time it will take, and all that. There are times you may not have the information yourself. So when you are researching, you may need to use expert advice to know what your options are. Then you will now know what your assumptions are. If, for example, you want to have an outdoor party, maybe you're assuming it will not rain, so you did not provide for tents or whatever to stop the rain from disturbing the party. So when you're planning, it's also good to take note of those kind of things, like the constraints. The constraints could be time, could be budget, and stuff like that. You should also identify them. An example is a travel plan, for example. You're planning to travel and your budget is, say, $1,000. What that means is that if that plan is going to cost more than $1,000, you may not be able to undertake it. So you need to identify your constraints and note your assumptions, because if those assumptions don't work, you may need to do something about that plan. One other thing you need to do is to know your stakeholders when you're planning. A stakeholder is the person that can affect your plan, or something that your plan can affect. So you need to know them, know how they can influence your plan, and update your plan to allow for that. Also, you have to have a quality into your plan. How do you know that this thing has worked well? If you don't include it in your plan, you won't know if your plan is working well. So you need to include a quality plan. Then most importantly, after you've done all this, you document your plan. All right? So one of the things, obviously you can see that this is a very, depending on how complicated your goal is, you might need advanced skills to do some of these things. So some of the skills you need is critical thinking. That means you need to be able to ask really serious and deep questions around the goal you want to achieve. You need to have skills in problem solving. This is one of the other skills we'll be talking about in one of our presentations. And communicating, because if you are planning, you need to talk to someone. Like we all know, you can't exist on your own. So most of your plans will include other people. So you need to know how to communicate with them in such a way as to make your plan work. So essentially, if you have all these inputs, you are likely to put together a good plan.
Okay, but I have two questions in mind now. At what point do you know that you have a good plan? How do you know you have a good plan?
Well, first way of knowing your plan is good is after it has worked.
Wow.
But you can set up systems to be sure that your plan is likely to work. So one of the things you need to look out for is, how effective will my plan be? That means, will it be able to get me to that goal? Imagine, for example, the plan to walk from here, from 5,000 miles in 2 days. You're not likely to get there. So that would not be an effective plan. Another way of looking at your plan is it efficient? Efficiency means you're not using too much resources to achieve the target you want to achieve. Your plan should also have an element of flexibility. That means you can allow some small gaps. An example is, if you have to arrive somewhere in 1 hour, plan your travel for maybe 1 hour, 20 minutes, so that if anything happens on the way, you can still get there on time. You should also ensure that that plan has a bit of balance in it. It's fair, so that you're not likely to meet serious opposition when you are trying to execute that plan. One other thing is, if you didn't think through all the things that can affect your plan, that means you have not thought comprehensively about it. It may not work. Like I was talking about the party, and you know that it's the season that it rains and you didn't plan for rain. Chances are that the party will be messed up by the rain. One other thing is to organize that plan in a manner that makes it easy for you to follow, like organizing it into smaller tasks. So an overseas trip, for example, will include one, getting your tickets, arranging for health insurance and all that, taxi to the airport or car hire when you get there, hotel booking at the other side, and so on and so forth. So you can now plan for the hotel, plan for the flight to the other city, plan for all these other smaller tasks. So organizing the big plan itself is very important. Then finally, you must also set a trigger for your plan. A trigger is like, this is when I should do this. If, for example, you are to be at the airport in 2 hours, 2 hours before the flight time, so that's 2 hours before is your trigger. That is when you start implementing going to the airport. So when you have put all of these checks into your plan, you are more likely to succeed than not. Like I said earlier, if you fail to plan properly, you are planning to fail. So this is how to ensure that your plan is proper.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I like the example, because I was going to ask about an example, but you've used an example that I can relate to. Now, I asked a question previously as to when you know if you have a good plan. Because, I mean, if you know your plan was bad after it had gone sour, I mean, what's the point? Now, this is what comes to mind. You won't believe what happened to me on a trip abroad. I had packed I thought I had a good plan. My money was in place. I mean, you need tickets, you need your cash, you need, foreign forex, you need everything. And everything was in place. My card was in place. But I got to the destination. I realized I didn't have my cash on me. Obviously, I'd put it in another wallet without, I thought I had it in my wallet. I felt so sure until I got to my destination. So my final question would be, how do you prevent this kind of anomaly in planning, improper planning, like you said?
Okay, so let us drill deeper into planning a journey to illustrate what makes a good plan. You see, before you even start planning that journey, understand why you are going there. Are you going there for a holiday, or you are going for work, or for a combination of the two? If you are going for a holiday, are there any special events you would like to attend when you get there? Because there are times, like I, for one, when I go on a trip, I always look out for special events, maybe concerts, recitals that are going to take place while I'm there, so that I can also attend those instead of just going for a holiday and going shopping or stuff. I like to experience the people there. So I sort of get also a list of things I want to do when I get there. So obviously that means that will help me know the dates and how long I'm going to stay there, what I'm going to do when I get there. And I put them on a checklist. Checklists are one of the most powerful tools that I've seen in life. Checklists have saved lives. Doctors use them when they're performing surgical procedures. Pilots use them when they're preparing the planes for takeoff. Because it's not when you're in the air, you're going to remember, oh, I forgot to check whether the flaps are working. So a checklist is a very useful thing to start drawing up. So at the start of the planning of the journey itself, I start with a checklist of things to do when I get there, places to visit when I get there. The next thing you do is to research, like I said. You might actually just have a blanket plan, I want to travel. So you research into places you can visit that will make you happy. Maybe you have a choice between, say, going to, say, a Paris or a London. If you go to London, these are the kind of things that will happen. If you go to Paris, these are the kind of things that will happen. So you can do all this research and make a decision based on your research. Then you do further studies. Is there any travel things that I need, like travel advisory? What are the things that I should not do when I get there? Because it's a different culture. They will have different laws too. So it's always good to know what laws will apply to you. Find out about the security implications of going to the place you're going to. Because obviously, one of the new things that happen with travel is what they call travel advisories. So you can check out the travel advisory on where you're going so that you know how to prepare for your personal safety and well-being while you're there. Then you now do analysis. How do I get to the place? How much time will it take me to get there? How much will it cost me to get there? Then you can now use that all to set up your budget and check whether your budget can meet with what you have planned, all the activities you have planned to do. Don't forget that now you have planned to buy airline tickets, to book visits to special places of interest, your hotel bills, how you are going to feed and transport yourself while you are there, communication costs with people back home and maybe while you are there too, and all that. When you have done all of this and you find that your budget is okay, then you can start making arrangements to firm up the journey by contacting the various people to either make reservations, like the hotels, you tell them, hey, I'll be there between so dates, and airline reservations as well. Then you can also drop a checklist of the things you are going to travel with. And by the time you have reached that stage where you have arranged your travel in terms of your visits, transportation, accommodation, wellness, and all that, you have a very well thought out plan and you're ready to go.
You know, this has been amazing, you know, because I can, like I say, it's relatable. And that's, by the way, very good example. Yeah, traveling abroad, because, you know, you're going so far away. You cannot turn back to pick up something you had forgotten, like it happened to me. You cannot ask someone to send something ahead of you or send something to you. So it has to be thought out properly. I love that example. And what I've gleaned from that is the importance of having a checklist, most especially when you're all done and packed. Even if you had gone through a checklist in the first instance, say 10 minutes to the time, go through that checklist again so that what happened to me, stories that touch, like what happened to me, will not happen to you. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing session. I hope you've all enjoyed it. You've learned from it. I can't wait for the next session. So while we are waiting, please check out our YouTube channel. Go and like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much.